Hello and welcome to the Indo GAA podcast. The county season may be over, but Pat Spillane is still here and he's still mad for road. Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. You know, we've had a couple of weeks off, and I'm refreshed and eager to go. Disappointing, I wasn't asked to audition for Liveline in the last couple of weeks, and as of yet, no one has asked me would I be interested in a nomination for president. So unfortunately, I'm still available for all those gigs, but I'm raring to go. And you know, people think that I'm a county man and I have no interest in club matches because of my opposition to the split season. And the fact that my opposition to the split season is the fact that we're removing our two top products into county football and hurling from the shop window for 6 months. That's my opposition. I know the split season is here to stay, but I think it needs tweaking. But that doesn't in any way take from the fact that I'm a club man at heart. I spent 10 years as chairman of Timpano GAA Club, secretary of Timpano GAA Club. I played for 30 years at the club. So I love club football. And at the moment, I mean, we've had a brilliant inter-county year in Gaelic football. We've had a brilliant championship, and we're seeing Gaelic football at its best. And that has been reflected in the last couple of weeks with the club championship games. They're absolutely brilliant. And, you know, thanks to all the streaming services now, in a particular club, I watch club, I'm getting my fix of club matches. I go from Wexford to Longford to Meath to Cork to Kerry to Watford hurling. I've watched them all. And the entertainment is absolutely superb.
It's wall to wall, Pat, isn't it? Like you can watch games from anywhere now.
Like, I mean, 2 weeks ago it was 80-something games. This weekend, just gone by, 40-something games. And I think somebody tells me that there's 100 games being televised on Clubber this weekend. And I'm going from one match to the... I'm just non-stop. And sometimes I'm watching it on two devices. It's just absolutely brilliant. And the Kerry Club Championship, which is obviously where I'd be focusing a lot on, the Kerry Club Championship this year has been the best in living memory, whether that's because of the new rules or whatever, but it's absolutely brilliant. And I mean, last weekend you had two quarterfinals in the Senior Club Championship, and there were two shocks. You had Rathmore beating Austin Stacks, and you had Nagale, who had been operating in Division 3 for the last year, beating Dingle. And like in those matches, like you had David O'Connor scoring a goal for the second week in a row. Absolutely wonder goal. You'd love it to have a bigger audience. Paul Ganey came on as a sub in the 18th minute for Dingle against Nagale. And he gave one of the greatest cameo performances I've seen for a sub. He scored 6 two-pointers. But if anyone gets a chance to watch those, it's a masterclass in how creating space, but masterclass in kicking technique. Absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, we had intermediate championship games in Kerry that were brilliant. We had loads of games went to the last kick of the game. And, of course, saving the best wine to last, the Clifford brothers. I mean... And now it's been late. The Podinka, Paddy's goal for Fuss against Beaufort. Now, first of all, like the likes of Clubber and the likes of Kerry County Board are absolutely making hay while the sun shines, because Clubber are showing all Fuss's games. They're getting huge viewing figures. I mean, because they want to see David and Paddy, but in particular David in action. The Kerry County Board are getting huge attendances every time David turns up for a game. There was a huge attendance in Beaufort last Sunday. But the goal, like everything, it's just everything, the brilliance of it. First of all, it was a ball that wasn't David's. He started 3-4 metres behind two Beaufort defenders. Then put on the turbo, chip up into his hand, head up, brilliant vision into Paddy. And like another guy would be taking a handy point and equalising, but he went for the cheeky lob over the goal. It was just brilliant. The only shame about it, you know, Michael, is that, is that we haven't a bigger audience. Yes, we have the streaming services showing it and an occasional game on TG Car, but we should have, RT should have a club highlights programme every Sunday night or Monday night. Or maybe we should be thinking outside the box and going like, I think is it the Bundesliga is being shown now in England on YouTube. Maybe there's an opportunity. But there's great club championship matches. There's great football being played in these club matches. And it probably deserves a big audience. But like, am I missing the inter-county season? Absolutely not. Because but at the same time, you know, clubs are parochial. It doesn't have the same profile. You look at the national. I was looking at the national newspapers over the weekend, and like GAA coverage is now pretty limited. So I think we could do more. I mean, because like I said, we're looking at the greatest superstar probably we've ever seen in the game in David Clifford. And like from a GAA point of view, the GAA should be promoting him as the poster boy of the game, as a role model for Irish youngsters. But it's been absolutely brilliant. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Just on the Paddy Clifford goal, I love everything about it. It's like a volleyed ball out of defence. Like the defender just whips on it. It's like ground hurling back in the day. It was a greasy enough day for David Clifford to do that chip lift at full pace. And even for Paddy's goal, yeah, he could have hand passed it over. But even looking at it, I look back at several times, the only way the ball can get into the net, like literally the angles are all covered. The only way. How do you think about that? How do you even think, like in the heat of a championship game when we need a score to either draw or win the game, how do you think, geez, this is the only way? He's on the edge of the 6-yard box and he chips it over the keeper and he follows it in for good measure because he wasn't sure if he put enough on it. It was amazing, really.
But this is the difference between an ordinary player and a great player. A great player plays in the moment and does a thing off the cuff, which is an act of genius, and only a great player could do that. And sometimes you talk about, like, you play what's in front of you, but playing in the moment. Look, I can recall back in 1986, Kerry playing Tyrone, and I got a ball across the square from Ger Power, and I dived and panned it into the net for a goal. Had I done it previously in training? Had I done it previously in games? No. Did I ever do it since? No. But in that moment, whatever possessed me, that I decided the best thing for me to do is to dive full length and pan the ball in the opposite direction. And it worked. And like, if you score, it's an act of genius. If you miss, you're an absolute idiot. I mean, if Paddy's ball lobbed into the goalie's hands, he'd be made look good. But that's the difference between great players playing the moment. Great players are prepared to take that. And you know, while we're talking about the club championship, one of the things, you know, when the new rules came in, and the prophets of doom kept saying, club players will never be able to adjust to the new rules. Too many new rules. And the second thing that was said is, club referees, they won't have a clue. They'll be out of their depth with the new rules. And guess what has happened? The club players have adopted, and I've watched league in Kerry all year long, club players have adopted to the new rules like a fish to water, and the referees are absolutely having a blinder. And like, besides the new rule, the one thing I see with the referees nowadays is that there's no dissent. The referee's decision is final, it's accepted, and that's it. There's no roaring on the sideline, there's no roaring on the field. And so the new rules have been a success at Intercounty, but they've been just as equally a success at club level.
It's gas you say about being in the zone. Mount Sion were playing a quarter-final the week before, and you know, Austin Gleeson obviously plays for Mount Sion. But Ian O'Regan, veteran goalkeeper, used to be on the Waterford panel for years. A ball came near him and he threw his head at it to stop it because it was just the closest thing. You talk about being in the zone, like I just thought that was even unbelievable, and it's a great sign of a fella. You just react, you're not even thinking, you're just doing something completely off the cuff, and he ended up winning them the game, and he nearly won them. Him and Gleeson probably won them that semi-final at the weekend as well. Just something.
What you're looking, sorry Michael, what you're looking at under the new rules, like people say, what's really different about the new rules? The new rules have given an opportunity for the best teams and the best players to exhibit their wide range of skills. And you've only to look at the last 2 weeks. I watched Kilmacud playing St. Jude's 2 weeks ago at the Dublin Senior Football Championship, and Paul Mannion was just in a different class. So was Shane Walsh. Paul Donaghy there in Tyrone scoring 20 points in the Tyrone County Championship. Rian O'Neill scoring 14 points for Crossmaglen last week in the Armagh Championship. The Clifford striving, Paul Ganey, Sean O'Shea. I mean, now we have a rules that allow the best players to perform, and that's what players want, and that's what spectators want, and that's what a sport should be all about. And we've hit the nail on the head. Yeah,
the rules are definitely bringing all the best players to the table, which is great. Just something you said about club being parochial and that. I will say one thing though, streaming services have now allowed David Clifford to come into, you know, televisions or you know, phones or laptops all around the world. Like, when would you have seen like an intermediate championship game in Kerry and a clip going viral around the world? That's one thing I will say. And like, while that's a club game between two teams that, you know, the large majority of people don't have any association with, they're now coming into the sitting rooms and the kitchens of people everywhere via these kind of streaming services.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I watched obviously a load of matches on Clubber because Kerry is and the Cork. I watched Dub's GAA TV, which is outstanding for football. And I have a particular fascination or interest in Sligo because my son plays in Sligo. Sligo GAA TV, outstanding service. Now, the Doomsday scenario, so last weekend, there was 3 matches televised live in Sligo. But the match involving my son, Sam Maguire against Tubbercurry, was on radio. So I listened to 60 minutes of radio commentary. But the one thing about...
Hey, just on that, Pat, isn't it? When you're so used to being able to see it, listening to it and not actually knowing and just taking someone else's word for what's going on is very difficult.
It was, my wife said, look, she said, you're very stressed looking there, you know. It was a tight game. And like you said, you don't know what's happening, really. You're dependent on it. But the one thing about these streaming services, you're right. It brings it, the person in Auckland or the person in Shanghai can watch Fossa playing Beaufort from the comfort of their living room. It's a whole new audience, but I think it's untapped potential. And I will say this about all the streaming services: the Sligos, the Dublin, the Clubbers. The standard is outstanding. The camera work is excellent, and initially at the start, the commentators and co-commentators were a bit higgledy-piggledy. It was a bit sort of Ballymagar stuff. But in the last year, the standard of commentaries, the standard of co-commentaries is on a par with any of the national. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I have to say, I really like the local element to it as well, because they know the players inside out, and chances are they have links with some of the clubs. And give me the bit of biased commentary at times as well. Do you know what I mean? Some of the best commentary ever. Like you look at Ambrose O'Donovan and Tim Moynihan down in Kerry. Like it's biased, but it's brilliant. Like because they're so passionate about it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the brilliance of local radio, and that's the brilliance of local streaming services. There is a passion, and I'm really enjoying the club championship matches. And you take next Sunday, for example, in Tralee, and it's a pity it's not being. Now there is a football match being shown next week, which I got a text from somebody. I haven't the clue it was Sunday morning, and just the text said, "TV sport to watch today: Women's Rugby World Cup." Women's Australian rules, more Women's Rugby World Cup, ladies soccer, and for a break, the Waterford County hurling semi-final. Not an O'Neill's ball in sight. And I can see where he's coming from. No football. I think there's been one Gaelic since the All-Ireland. There's been a Donegal County Championship game on TG Car, and next week I think there's a Dublin County Championship.
Ballymun and Whitehall I think is on.
Correct.
Weekend, yeah.
You're correct. But there is a huge appetite. I think in this world, in the GAA, we take it for granted, and we're not promoted enough. And this is where the streaming services are showing, look what can be done with the product, because we have a great product, and let's bang the drums loud and clear, and let's get even more exposure. But you're right. I mean, the Ambrose and Tim, I love Ambrose and Tim because it's completely biased. I mean, there's no attempt at all to have balance or fair play. The referee is absolutely destroying Kerry. The opposition are doing all the dirty tricks, and it's great stuff. But like I said, I mean, next Sunday, sorry, that's the point I'm trying to make is next Sunday in Tralee, there's a double header in Tralee next week. So you have the senior club semi-final between Dr. Crokes and Kinmare. Kinmare will have Shawnee O'Shea and Donald O'Sullivan and Stephen O'Brien. Dr. Crokes will have Gavin White and Mark O'Shea and Evan Looney and Tony Brosnan. What a game. And then the curtain raiser, the Clifford. Yeah. Jesus, I mean, that's why I said the Kerry County Board are laughing all the way to bank because they'll get big attendance. But Clubber are laughing all the way as well because they're going to get huge viewing figures for those two games.
Just on a point you made, I'm hoping we're getting closer and closer. There's so much footage there that surely a highlights package or a highlights show can be put out. And you don't need 3 lads in a studio talking about it. You just need to show the footage. That's what people want to see. They want to see the clips. The clips are all there. Hopefully some sort of deals can be put in place that we see some sort of a highlight show, because it's a bit of a no-brainer at this stage.
But you're right, and I mean, like our employers are Media House, and I see lately they bought a 25% stake in Clubber, which is because it was a brilliant move, I thought, because now you have Media House, who are the big media operators in this country. You have Clubber, who are the main streaming service for club matches. You have this program sponsored by AAB, who are the big sponsors of the club championship, and it's a perfect package because it's about highlighting club and community and the passion and the colour, because the passion and the colour of a club championship match, of a club county final, I know it's parochial, but it's absolutely massive. And yes, you're right, you don't need a TV studio, but I think you could certainly go down the route of a YouTube type, somebody commentating on a game like here with you or whatever, with the game on and a guy coming in with. But there's huge opportunity. There is huge opportunity, and it's untapped.
You mentioned there, and we'll leave the club with this. I don't know, did you see the pictures or the footage of Austin Gleeson at the end of the Mount Sion game the other day? Isn't that and Brendan Moran got some great shots for Sports File. It was the start of the run. It was him jumping in the air, and then you can actually see he is absolutely adored in Mount Sion. They love him, and he loves them. But you just see the passion, and that's getting to a county final and what it means to an area.
Yeah, look, I know it's an old cliche and it's an old thing, but I will remember the county final victories with Timpernoe and everything about the celebrations more than the celebrations and the victories with Kerry. It's not that we won a lot but it was just something special to win with your neighbours and whatever like that. But that catch by Austin Gleeson, that's just wow. But no. So a happy camper. It's been a fast, you feel sorry for, the Kerry boys, they had a week of celebration, and then the second week they were back into training, and within 2 weeks they were all playing championship match, and they're on the conveyor belt now. And remember, in Kerry, as opposed to other counties, Kerry have the club county championships, they have the county senior championship, and on top of that they have the district championship. So Kerry players have still 3 championships to play before the end of the year. And remember, they're also going on holidays in the end of October to Nashville and the Caribbean, because last year, and being cute by Jack, because Jack realised that the last time they won, they went on their holiday in January and they were playing catch up in terms of fitness for the rest of the year. Now he's getting the holiday over before the pre-season training begins.
Yeah.
So that brings us, Jack has his ducks in a row.
Yeah. I'll come back to Jack in 1 second. Just something I always wanted to ask you. When you won the Club All-Ireland, Pat, with Thomond, my late great PE teacher, Jimmy Dunn, I believe, was involved with that. Great. He was the one who kind of inspired me into PE teaching, and I only did it for a while, but he was the one that kind of inspired me. But I'm always wondering, when you won the All-Ireland, is that literally just your families at the match? Were they when a club, it's like the whole village, everybody? What was that like? Was it just your families? Is it like a UCD job when they were winning, when they were competing for Leinster finals and that?
So we won the All-Ireland. It was a 79 or 78, the All-Ireland club. I'm not quite sure. So it's the only All-Ireland club that you cannot find video evidence of. There is no record, no video evidence of any of the score. We beat St. John's from Belfast in the final. But there was a couple of things about it. We had 3 or 4 matches against Austin Stacks. It went to 3 matches or 4 matches before we beat them in the Munster Championship. They were probably the greatest club matches ever played, believe it or not. They were in Limerick Gaelic grounds, and it went to extra time 3 times, I think. Brilliant matches. Winning the All-Ireland final, we went down to Limerick for the night, and that was it. Was there a crowd at the game? No, we'd only a couple of our family. You start to say, should colleges be allowed into club championships? I'm not too sure. I think there's enough competitions for college players now. But at the time, we had an inter-county team. We were playing did Thomond College do anything for the Limerick Senior Football Championship? Absolutely not, because we were a juggernaut. We were miles better than the rest. So
give me a couple of names there, Pat. Who else was involved?
You had Brian Talty of Galway. You had Declan Smith of Galway. You had my brother Mike. You had Sean O'Shea of Longford. You had Eddie Mahan Mick Caulfield of Wexford. Like I said, Jimmy Dunn, George Dillon of Kerry.
League of Nations.
And of course, you had Richie Bell from Mayo, Dennis O'Boyle from Mayo. They were all inter-county players. It was a League of Nations. It was brilliant. And we were coached by a guy called Dave Weldrick.
Oh, yeah.
Lot of mercy his soul. He's gone from us since. But Dave was a soccer guy. But Dave was a guy who brought soccer coaching into Gaelic football. And he was probably a revolutionary at the time, because we and this is in the 70s, we videoed our training sessions in the 70s. In 78, 79, we were videoing our training sessions. I mean, that's 20 years before. I remember one day, the All Blacks were playing Munster in Thomond Park, and they were training in Thomond College. And Dave decided to organise the Gaelic football team training session in the pitch alongside where the All Blacks were training. And the All Blacks stopped their training session and came over to watch us training.
Go away.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, we had, he was a great man. He was a visionary. He was actually one of the first guys to appear on the Sunday game.
Right, yeah, he was one of the original pundits, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, great memories, but I can't remember them at all.
Pat, we'll come back to Jack. Jack has obviously signed on for another 2 years. Once they won the All-Ireland, was it much of a surprise? I'd say like 2 months ago, maybe it would have been a surprise that he signed on for another couple of years.
No, I didn't think. Once they won the All-Ireland, I knew, goddamn well, the pressure was on. The players were going to go. Shawnee got on to him. I know Shawnee went for a game around the golf with him about the week after, and the boys were saying, one of the lads were asking Shawnee, did who won? Oh, he said, look, I was trying to do the deal. He says, I let them win. It's a no-brainer. Look, Jack is he's a brilliant manager. Brilliant manager. He's the third most successful of all time. And I think Jack could see unfinished business in the sense that Kerry are now going next year for their 40th title. There's a nice ring about trying to get to 40. And remember, Jack has never done back-to-back All-Irelands. Jack is a guy that's always looking. That's a challenge. Jack will see that. There's no doubt about it. Look, I had a good chat with him a couple of days after All-Ireland. And Jack is a much different person nowadays than when he's much calmer, much more relaxed. And even the lads in training says, he's a very good manager now. If the boys want to drink, if the boys want a break, he gives them the break. He's very good now at delegating. He's delegating, whether it's Cian O'Neill, whether it's James Costello, whether it's Pa McCarthy, whether it's Edar McArdle. He delegates now. He's brilliant. He will admit that himself. Now, it's a big disappointment because, the vultures were circling after Meath had beaten Kerry. There was a lot of boys lining up, and they were ready. The manoeuvrings had started, and now, unfortunately, the vultures have had to go back into the tree again, and I don't know what will happen to them, because, he asked a lot of the people who were supposed to be serious contenders to take over from Jack. Jack told me himself he asked some of them to be part of the management team for this year, but a lot of people, of course, would have seen Jack. This was a last year for Jack. Maybe he mightn't win. Oh, it's better to wait. And Jack, you must remember, new rules. An entirely new management team, and he wins an All-Ireland. Gee, that's an amazing achievement altogether. I'm delighted to see him back. He's driven, he's hungry, and he's rich, and he's the ideal man for because Jack is retired, plays a bit of golf, walks his dog, and that's it. Plenty time.
Yeah, Martin Brennan had him down as the fifth best manager. Gaelic football manager of all time. I'll just read out the four that were ahead of him: Sean Boylan, Jim Gavin, Kevin Heffernan, and the late Micko. And obviously Kevin is since passed away as well, unfortunately. He could get to number 4. He could get to number. He's 5 already. You'd imagine he's a fair chance of getting another one in the next couple of years. Just something you mentioned there. Obviously, Kieran Donaghy is gone from Armagh. Jack was the one that brought Donaghy to the headlines, probably you'd say as well, throwing him in full forward back in the day. Any chance of him coming into the backroom team, or what would you think?
No.
No,
I would think. I don't know. I'm looking at manoeuvrings, and you start to see Galway. Pádraig Joyce is just after taking on a 3-year, another 3 years with Galway. I do know that John Dively has opted out.
You're joining dots here, Pat.
I'm joining dots, and I'm looking at it, and I say, right. And Galway, if of all the teams who underachieve over the last number of years, Galway have been the greatest underachievers, because they should probably have an All-Ireland title already. They tick all the boxes for the new rules. They have the physicality. They have the powerful runners from the back with McHugh and with Silk. They have the man markers like Jack McGrath. They have that big guys around the middle third nowadays, the Conroys and the McDades and the Mars, and they have class forwards. Yet I look at where is their Achilles heel? Despite the fact that they have class forward, their Achilles heel has been, over the last number of years, probably their attacking play. Right, here goes my dots again. You start to say, they could really do with a top-class attacking coach, forwards coach. There's a fella down in Kerry. So he appeared before with the Galway hurling team in part of their management group a couple of years ago. Oh, gee, knowing Kieran Donny and his job takes him all over the country. Jeez. We'll throw it out there today. Galway would be a nice fit for him because there's nothing happening in Kerry for a couple of years. There's no vacancies.
There could be a lot of pitches been done up around Galway, up around the west.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly. And not making fun of Kieran. I mean, I know from the Armagh players. Yeah. I mean, Kieran, sharp football brain, very sharp on attacking play, but where Kieran is absolutely brilliant, he's a player's man. Yeah. He's bubbly. He's a great extrovert. He's a great confidence booster. He's a great guy. He's the sort of guy that any county would love to have him, or any club would love to have him in the dressing room because he has so much to offer. But look, Kerry's management team were brilliant this year. Absolutely, they proved, and they're a management team that are learning. I spoke to the Clare players early this year and talking about that. They had Mark Fitzgerald was their manager 2 years ago, and James Costello was the coach. And the Clare players were raving about James Costello as a coach with them. And Jack picked up James Costello. He picked up Pam McCarthy, who's a forwards coach. He picked up Adar McGarrett, who's a really and of course then he ticked the perfect box, then bringing in a coach and an outside coach in Cian O'Neill. So he got it right.
Yeah, and that's obviously, as you said there, that's a pretty much a new backroom team. Like, so you wouldn't expect any changes. You'd expect the backroom, maybe somebody else to come in, but there's a fair few kind of personalities and bodies in there already.
And in fairness, Jack showed loyalty, because if Jack went, it meant his entire management team had to go, because that was the end of the year. So, like, he showed loyalty and to the management team by wanting to stay on and keep them honest. And it's a win-win-win for Kerry and for the players and for the supporters. And like I said, I'm looking around this year. And you're looking at the Kerry County Championship, which I said is very good, but there's a lot of players, young players, new players putting their hands up. And I watched Nigale playing Timpano here 2 weeks ago, and I watched two guys who were absent from the county panel for the last year. Jack Barry, who has just returned and playing brilliant football, and Stefan O'Cumber, who took a year out and has just returned. And they were brilliant in the last two matches. They have the physicality, the athleticism for the modern game. They could be coming back. So there's lots of talent there.
Yeah, you definitely say it's an exciting time for Kerry. Quickly, Pat.
Yes, but at the same time, with Gavin, there's 8 teams in this country, maybe 9 teams, maybe even push it to 10. 8 counties who next year can say, we have a chance of winning the All-Ireland. We have a chance of winning the All-Ireland. You have Galway could have a chance. You have Mayo have a chance. You have Kerry. You have Dublin, you have maybe perhaps Meath, but the boys in the North, Derry will regroup under Kieran Mina. McGeeney will have Armagh putting. Donegal, Jim will have learned. Jim is a shrewd buyer. Jim will know what went wrong. Jim will come back with a new look Donegal team. You have Down, who are an improving team. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting times. Pat, the question or the topic that's on everybody's lips. I asked John Milan the same question last week, and he said that the big 3 were all in touch with him as regards political careers. That's FF, FG and SF, the 3 big parties, shall we say. I'm wondering, with Jim Gavin been nominated by Fianna Fáil as their presidential candidate and likely to be running for the Áras, you were surely asked at some stage about political careers.
I was years ago. I'm not a member of any political party, and look, I admire all politicians because it must be the toughest gig in I know they're well rewarded financially, but it must be the toughest gig because it's a 24/7 fucking handshaking, going to funerals, Jesus, delivering the medical cards, the grants, filling the potholes. I wouldn't, if you gave me all the tea in China, I wouldn't become a politician. Yes, years ago I was asked, and thanks be to God, I said no. But the nomination, the president, like Jim Gavin, I don't know Jim Gavin, never met him in my life.
Really?
But no, I never met the guy. The only time he had a go at me at a press conference, and RT, it was after the Diarmuid Connolly incident, and geez, in the post-match conference, I think it was after beating Westmeath, and he gave myself and O'Rourke both battles, and they basically refused to talk to RT Sport for a while because of our comments. Like, our comments were only just issuing the same comments as the Sky Sport boys had done the night before, but maybe he wasn't watching. But he gave us all battles, and anyway, fair play, that's using the siege mentality, and he found a few victims and whatever like that. But like, I can't understand, like, he's a brilliant. I admire him, what he did as a player, his career as a pilot, his career with the Dublin Airport Authority, his career with the Dublin Inner City Task Force, the People's Assembly. Like, Jim Gavin is an intelligent guy, is a leader, is a guy with great vision. But Christ almighty, lads, what a waste of talent. He's 54 years of age. Jim Gavin would make a most brilliant politician. He would make an unbelievable minister. He would make a great, he'd make a great Taoiseach. And he wants to, at 54 years of age, he wants to go into the Áras, which is basically a semi-retirement home that you just sign your name in the paper, and you nod your head, you take photographs, and you shake hands, and you go to the opening of envelopes. And I think what a waste of a very talented man.
Yeah, Jim Gavin.
And the only good thing, sorry, I will vote for him, because it means if he gets the president, it's 7 years in the Áras. That would mean that's 7 years he couldn't get back to managing Dublin. Kerry would have a good chance of winning in Ireland.
It's kind of, I don't get me wrong, I've unbelievable time for Jim Gavin. I actually did a thing with him out in Toyota, Liffey Valley, the week of the All-Ireland final, and it was just, I'd only kind of seen the public Jim where he was talking to us and wouldn't give us much. Like, he's an unbelievable networker. He gets on unbelievably well with everyone. He's able to talk to everyone. But to me, Jim Gavin is one of the biggest doers I've ever seen. Like, he's a doer. He gets things done in everything he's ever been involved in. He's a doer. He gets things done. He makes change happen. And the president's role is just it's an ambassadorial role, kind of. You don't, you can't affect any change.
That's it all in the world. I mean, it's a waste of a talented man. And like, I'm not taking anything from all the nominees, but this is Heather Humphreys, Sean Kelly. Like, it's the first misjudgment he ever made in his life, that he felt he had enough votes for nominated for Fine Gael, and he missed out on it, so he's back to Europe. But like, goddamn well, when you're going to politics, particularly these presidential debates, it doesn't seem to be about policy. It's about personalities and like, they dig up every bit of dirt. I'm sure there's no skeletons in Jim Gavin, but if there is, some journalists will find out. I mean, Michael D, in fairness, the last re-election, he played a blinder while everyone was firing salvos at each other. Michael D just stood smiling and said nothing and gained all the votes. So sometimes, shut mouth catches no flies, isn't it?
Would you expect him to get in, Pat?
I don't know. I think he could, yeah. But see, the GAA is a powerful family. It's a powerful vote getter.
Particularly in the year of affecting so much change in football and the feel-good factor around football.
I'm sorry, we didn't even talk about his role in the task force and the new rules, and like, everything I read about what he did with the new rules. And like, do you know what was outside the fact, the sandbox games and he was just brilliant in selling the message. I mean, he was just so brilliant in coming into studio or doing the videos, explaining clear and logically exactly what the new rules were, exactly what they entailed, why they were there. It was a brilliant, like, and to get the GAA family unanimously on board in the space of a couple of weeks, like, that is an unbelievable achievement. So,
have you ever seen anything like that, Pat? Like, it's so hard to get something through Congress, and it was just like, oh no, this is universal, lads. This is going through 99 or whatever. There was no descending voices or anything like that. It's amazing how they did it. Now, in fairness, and I said it to him when I was speaking to him a couple of weeks ago. I said, it's no coincidence you brought in Fitzmaurice. It's no coincidence you brought in Murphy. It's no coincidence you brought in Malachy and Peter Canavan and all these lads. lads. He had really big figures within all those counties. It was such an easy sell when you have these people on board.
But the big figures, but these boys, like Fitzmaurice, one of the best analytical brains in the GAA, O'Rourke, Michael Murphy. Geez, they were all sharp. Actually, I was in a restaurant in Kimere 3 weeks ago, and I met a gentleman who, I asked him, are you going to go for presidency? He said, I'd love to. He says, I'd love to, but I don't think I'll get it. But he said, I'd love to. Bertie Ahern.
Oh, go away.
Bertie wants to go, and he said, I'd love to. He said, I really would. So the man is anxious. He was, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like Fianna Fáil want him.
From what I could see, it looked like the can was being kicked down the road and further down the road, and we'll ring you in a week, ring you in a couple of weeks. Someone had it up on Twitter, I forget who it was. He said, this reminds me of when I was in a nightclub years ago and I kept asking the same girl for a dance every week, and she'd say, oh, I'll dance with you next week, or I'll dance with you the week after. But Pat, super stuff as always. A great chat as always, and we'll chat again soon.
And like I said, what's really important, I think, from now on, like a lot of the podcasts and a lot of the TV GA programs on radio and TV and everything, and they've gone into hibernation. Most of them, not all, but most of them. And I just think that this is the opportunity now to really drive on the club championship and how brilliant the club championship and the brilliance of the club championship, the brilliance of the Gaelic football championship, and just the colour of the atmosphere and highlighting just what's happening. And we'll do it every week, hopefully.
We'll keep the foot to the floor, Pat, and we'll talk again soon. Good man.
Lovely. Pleasure.